Okay, it is 6:30 or 1 minute past 6:30. So why don't we go ahead and get started? Hello, everyone. Welcome to our webinar tonight, How to Create an Impactful Cleanup Event. This is the second webinar in our cleanup series. My name is Jenny, and I work with Catherine on various cleanup volunteer programming, and I'll be helping moderate tonight. So I will start us off by quickly going over tonight's agenda. So Caroline will be giving us a quick overview of Sanitation Foundation and some things we do. And then Marissa from Community Affairs will be going over the Department of Sanitation, new upcoming programs and community partnerships. And then Katie, who works with us at Sanitation Foundation and is also the founder of the Litter Legion, will be doing volunteer recruitment and retention and how you can connect better with your volunteers. Then we'll go through some supporting resources and tool grants and wrap up with a panel discussion with our cleanup organizers and with a quick Q&A. And Caroline, this is you.
If I can unmute myself. Hi, I'm Caroline Tobin, Director for Communications Development for the Foundation. Thrilled to be here this evening with you all. So the Foundation is the nonprofit partner to the Department of Sanitation, and we work alongside the department to keep the city clean, to support the workforce, and advance the department's work to create a cleaner city, more sustainable, zero waste focused. And we do our programming in 3 different pillars. The primary one is cleaning. We also do youth education and public engagement. And through our volunteer program, which we'll be talking a lot about this evening, we work alongside the department to engage New Yorkers in the work to create a cleaner, healthier, and more sustainable city. And we would not be here tonight without the support of NYC Service, who helped make this possible. Our incredible team and the department, and volunteers and community leaders like you who are doing this important work. So with that, I will hand it over to Marissa to do a run through of the department. This is the slide that should have been up while we were looking at our volunteer program, but this is some of the work that we do all year round to engage New Yorkers in the work to create a cleaner city. So with that, I will hand it over to Marissa.
Thank you, Caroline. Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Marissa Yani, Community Affairs Liaison for the Department of Sanitation. Let's talk a little bit about the department. So of course, we are in your community. We're here to help you as much as possible. If you have any condition or issue that you'd like to let us know about so that we can assess it, please submit it through 311, first and foremost, always a great way to start. And then if you would like to talk to someone who works at the department to talk about an issue that you're having, specifically if it's chronic, please reach out to our customer service unit. You have the number there, 212-291-1220. And if you would like to send us an email, if you would like to talk to anyone with the community affairs unit, we have our email address right there. Happy to speak with anybody or to assist in any way that we can. It's part of our job. Also, the best part about DSNY, we're divided into 59 zones. 59 districts with 7 zones. And our districts match up with community board districts. So if you know what community board you live in and you're very active, or at least you know kind of where you're at, then you know exactly what your sanitation district is. So luckily, we're helpful in that way. And we separate the Brooklyn and Queens into 2 zones just to help cover everybody because they're 2 of our biggest boroughs. So we'll get some common questions about DSNY. Do we collect all of NYC's waste? No, we do not. We only pick up residential and institutional waste and recycling. Commercial waste, that's all done by private haulers and private carting companies. So they figure out who's going to pick up their garbage. They have to have someone pick up their garbage, and they have them do that. So how much does DSNY collect in one day? We collect about 12,000 tons of refuse and recycling daily. So that's 24 million pounds. And annually about 14 million tons of refuse and recycling. So it's pretty exciting and amazing how much garbage and recycling we actually pick up every single day. And we operate 24/7. We have 3 shifts. So we are always picking up the garbage. There's always a crew out in the street in a big white truck taking care of the city. Do things get recycled? Yes, of course they do. As long as you properly sort it and bag it and place it on the curb, plastic, metal, glass, and carton recycling goes to one of our facilities in Brooklyn. And then paper as well goes to another facility in Staten Island. So, and then that all gets separated specifically at the metal, glass, and plastic and carton recycling center, the Sims Recycling Center. They separate everything through some really awesome scanners and screens and magnets. So it's a very, and if you ever get a chance to do a walkthrough and to do a tour, you definitely should. It's a super exciting place to go to. Last question, who is responsible for cleaning sidewalks of NYC? So that is all up to the property owners and business owners and businesses, and they're responsible to clean the sidewalk and then 18 inches into the street. This can actually result in a fine, which we'll get to in a minute, if you don't actually do that. So it's very important to keep your sidewalk and 18 inches into the street clear. Okay, one of my favorite things to talk about, curbside composting. So we were super successful in Queens with our curbside compost program that we started in fall of 2022. So it's actually going to be rolling out fully to all the other boroughs coming up very soon. I see a hand clapping. I love it. So Queens, started March 27th. It's the 21st, but they started in the fall, so they're going back to full-time service on the 27th. Next is, where am I? Brooklyn is October 2nd in 2023. So we're looking forward for all my Brooklynites, including me, for that to be then borough-wide. Bronx and Staten Island will be the same time, March of 2024. And then Manhattan is last, which ending pretty strong in October of 2024. So definitely look out, keep these dates in mind, depending on which borough you live in, and just we'll definitely remind you, but this is a great goal to work towards, is when you're going to get curbside compost collection. So in the meantime, for those that are in Brooklyn, Bronx, and Island, and Manhattan, if you're just not ready, you're not starting yet, please look out for our smart bins. We're in all 5 boroughs. We're in a lot of different neighborhoods. Do download our compost app. It's the best way to know where the newest locations are. We're adding about 150 new ones in Manhattan, because Manhattan's the last borough to receive the curbside compost service. But definitely look in to see where the bins are, and it also lets you know how full they are and if it's closed right now. So if it is at capacity, it will kind of tell you to go to a different one instead. So do keep track of that before you leave your house with a bag of compost and you're just walking the streets trying to figure out where to place it. We want to make sure you get it placed properly, and then it's out of your house, out of your life, and you can worry about other things. Okay, something new that's actually starting very, very soon, next Saturday, super exciting, is our new set out time. So currently you can place your garbage, recycling, and compost, if you have it, curbside starting at 4 p.m., which actually is the earliest of any other city in, I don't know about the world, but definitely in all of the United States. So starting April 1st, this goes for residential and commercial businesses, but you can't put it out until 8 p.m. if you're just placing bags curbside. If you do use a container, I think a lot of folks do, especially in my outer boroughs, you use a container, then you could start putting it out at 6 p.m. Just has to be 55 gallons or less with a secure lid. So there's actually, you see the pictures underneath the rat in the suitcase, you can see a picture of a bin and of course a plastic bag. So that just lets you know, depending on how you're placing it out, that's when you can actually put it out for collection. So just to keep this in mind, and make sure everything is out by midnight. So if you want to put it out past 8 o'clock, maybe you go to bed later than 8 o'clock and you want to put it out right before you go to bed, definitely make sure you put it out before midnight, because your collection day starts at midnight of the day of your collection. So Tuesday, 12:01 a.m., that's when we can start picking up your garbage. So definitely keep that in mind, because we don't want you to have a missed collection. Okay, something we were talking about just a little earlier, sidewalk and curb cleaning regulations. So property owners, they have to clean the sidewalk next to their property and 18 inches from the curb into the street, which is very important. And we want to make sure that you don't receive a ticket for this, so do keep this area clean, because we do have residential and commercial routing hours when DSNY agents between SAM police and other officers can actually come by and issue a violation. So if this is a residential property, that's between 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. and then from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. every single day. So if you're only going to clean at least those right before those 2 hours of the day, just to make sure you don't receive a violation, because that's when we can give a ticket and issue a violation for a dirty sidewalk. For commercial properties, if anyone here has a commercial property or owns a business, the enforcement times actually shift. It is still 2 1-hour periods per day, but the time does shift depending on where you are located. If you do want to know exactly where, you can go on our website and plug it in, and it will let you know where the commercial routing hours are or not, as you saw earlier. And I think you'll see my email address later again. You can reach out to the customer service email or call us at the 212 customer service number, and we'll be able to let you know exactly when your commercial routing hours are. Okay, sorry, quick drink of water. So as you're doing your cleanups out there, because again, this whole webinar is about cleanups and how you can safely do that, definitely want to figure out what type of locations that you're going to and what conditions are appropriate for you to clean up. So definitely in the first picture, you see just a typical dirty sidewalk. This is loose litter on sidewalks, curbs, the storm drains, and in tree beds. This is a great way to start getting the loose litter that's kind of hanging around, cups and candy wrappers and whatnot, all things that should be going in corner litter baskets that are not dropped by pedestrians or blown around. Definitely that's a great way to start and the first place to start cleaning up. If you are doing a cleanup or you know of an area that is actually has a pretty large illegal dumping, do not start cleaning that up. We don't know what's inside those bags. It could be very heavy. We see a lot of crazy things. If you follow us on social media, you could see some of the things that people dump out, and it's pretty crazy and pretty wild, including like mattresses and large lumber. So definitely don't want you to handle that. It could be hazardous as well. So if you do see that, you can email us at the customer service email, call 911, I'm sorry, not 911, I'm so sorry, 311. I'm so sorry, I'm a little tired. 311 or that 212 number from earlier, the customer service unit. You could just, any way you can, let us know about an illegal dump out so that we can send a crew to go clean it up. So don't handle that yourself. If you see that there, you want to clean around it. If that's you, just pop up to your cleanup and that's there. Someone was naughty and did some illegal dumping, but definitely don't handle that yourself. We don't want you to worry about that. That's our job. Okay, the real reason you're here is our DSNY tool loan program, which is amazing. So this is where if you want to do a cleanup in your neighborhood, you don't really know where to start and you just have a couple of neighbors just wanting to get together, we can actually help assist you with the whole cleanup. So we can give you bags, gloves, which you don't have to return to us, and shovel rakes and brooms, which you will have to return to us. But it's great that you don't have to buy your own, because who wants to give that money to Home Depot? You can just do it, we'll just give it to you for free. So really all you have to do is fill out an application and you send it to me, and I make sure that you get whatever materials that you need. Some groups don't need any of the supplies. You can do any sort of combination you want. If you just want bags, if you just want gloves, or if you don't need, or you just want brooms, whatever you need, we can definitely assist you with. But regardless, we'll make sure that the garbage afterwards get picked up. And I'll make sure that it's picked up right after your cleanup as best as possible, depending on when the next shift starts. It is important to know we need at least 2 weeks notice before your events. So and there's a couple of great questions on there, like where it's going to be, the volunteers, and your contact information. Just to make sure that gets sent to us 2 weeks beforehand is really helpful, so I can have everything queued up. Because on Monday mornings, every Monday, I send out all the volunteer cleanup information to the boroughs. So we just want to make sure you don't get missed and lost in the shuffle. Do note that tools will have to be picked up in one of our lock cleaning units. If you're in the Bronx, you have to go to Manhattan. And if you're in Queens East, which is pretty much Southeast Queens, South Queens, you will have to go to Brooklyn. So it's a little bit of some places might be closer than others to get to, but we can definitely help work it out to make sure that you get there and get the tools that you need. Do note if any of it's damaged or missing, any of the equipment we give you, it's on you to replace it. So most people are really good about it. Just make sure you give it back to us when your cleanup is over. Okay, I think last slide for me for right now, community partnership. So with the Department of Sanitation and Community Affairs, my bureau alone, we work with a lot of different partners all over the city to help make our city clean and to also just spread the word about all the different programs that we have and all the different events that we do. So of course, community boards and block associations, We're always in contact with these folks. So if you are part of actually any of these 4 type of partnerships, hopefully you know who we are. If you don't, let's get to know each other and we'll swap each other's contact information just so that we can work more closely together and handle any sort of issues that are in the districts and in your community. Solid waste advisory boards are really important as well, mutual aid organizations and school and student organizations, PTA specifically. A lot of folks reach out to my office to let us know about conditions or if they want to, or, you know, if they want us to come to an event or anything like that. So definitely, if you are part of any of these type of organizations, you have the customer service email address now. Let us know who you are and how we can work together.
Thank you, Marissa. So now we're just gonna quickly introduce our great group of cleanup organizers, because Katie is about to take over for the next section, and I know Nicole has to leave a little early. So if you guys want to go ahead and introduce yourselves.
Hi, my name is Katie Savage. I'm the founder of the Litter Legion. We started in June of 2020 in response to the increase in street and sidewalk litter during the pandemic. Since then, we've become an official nonprofit organization and continue our mission to keep the city clean. I'll pass it on to Jihadi.
Yes, good evening, everyone. My name is Jihadi. I am the founder of Straight Outta Brooklyn. We're founded in 2017. We are a community arts and culture organization. We work with predominantly Black and Brown communities and young folks in Brooklyn. We host a number of workshops and youth initiatives, youth development initiatives, and we work with schools to engage youth and elders to create safer and cleaner communities. So thank you, and I look forward to answering any questions you guys have.
And Nicole, do you want to go ahead?
Oh, yes, Nicole.
No worries. I hope you can hear me because I am sitting outside. So hi, everyone, and welcome. This is a great day. I started off co-sponsoring a Rat Academy, and now we're talking about trash, 2 of my favorite topics. So I'm happy to be here. I run the Clean Bushwick Initiative, and that started back in 2016. It initially started, to get rid of the litter on the streets that was really rampant in Bushwick. But since then, it's really grown into an environmentally focused group. We do everything from street cleanups to tree care events, rain garden maintenance, education in schools, and have a strong tie to the community and a lot of the great partners there. So we have ourselves pretty busy with a lot of different things, and really proud of the direction it's gone in. And pass it on to Angela.
Hi, everyone. My name is Angela Miskis. I'm the founder of Abuela Neighborhood Maintenance. We were founded also in April of 2020 because of the chronic littering that was happening during the pandemic. But since then, we have moved up to do other bigger projects like beautification projects, planting flowers in the local parks, and also doing art classes in the park. We try to combine art and activism as a way to call attention to the issue, but also to build community through art workshops and as a way to share resources in a very welcoming environment. And I'm happy to be here and answer any questions you have. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. And we'll hear from all of them more later during the panel and Q&A. And Katie, this is you.
Right. So a big component to your cleanup, besides all the tools and supplies, are the volunteers. So a great way to gather volunteers is to start out by utilizing your social media networks and your friends, see if you can get people together. If you're interested in cleaning your specific neighborhood, you can reach out to the local block associations and other community-based organizations because they, have mailing lists and reach as well and could help you get in contact with different segments of the community that you might not be able to reach via social media. When you have your cleanup, it's really helpful to collect email addresses from your volunteers. This way you can keep them posted about future events. And also organizing volunteer thank yous and meetups at local coffee shops or bars or little post cleanup mixers is a great way to really show your volunteers how much you appreciate the work they've done for you and the community. So while you're out cleaning, it's really great to also connect with your volunteers who have come out. You want to ask them where they're from, how they found out about the cleanup, why they decided to volunteer. You may have people who just moved to the neighborhood and they were looking for something to do, and they saw this and thought it would be a great way to get to know people. I've had a few of those situations in my cleanups, and it really helps people kind of get involved in the community because they find something that they're passionate, and it brings together like-minded people. During your cleanups, if you come across situations like blocked catch basins, you can use that as a teachable moment to let your volunteers know how important it is to make sure these areas are clear in case we do have heavy rainstorms. Our city has a combined sewage system. So when we have very high levels of rain in a short period of time, they're allowed to let the storm runoff into the rivers to avoid backing up the waste treatment plants. So making sure that those areas are clear so the water can drain in and doesn't back up and start flooding the streets is really helpful. I started doing this with some of my volunteers last spring, and some people had never really paid attention to the storm drains prior to that. And then they started looking at the ones on their blocks and making sure they would go out and clear them if they knew there was going to be a rainstorm. So just making people more aware of the infrastructure that we walk by every day and what we can do to help make it better and make sure everything, goes smoothly in those kind of conditions. And it's also super helpful if you follow up with your volunteers and let them know how much waste is collected. If you're able to do it and calculate everything during your event, that's great. But I also know sometimes there's just a lot going on, trying to collect all the tools, get everything packed up. So you might have to do those calculations later on. But if you are able to share that information either via email or via social media, it's really helpful for people to see just how much litter is being collected on how many blocks by how many people. Another great way to expand your cleanups is by partnering with local businesses. They can help promote your events with flyers or posters or in their windows. They also might want to provide refreshments for volunteers. I'm sure they're very happy to have people coming out and helping to keep the sidewalks in front of their businesses clean. A lot of times they may come out and ask if people want water, if it's really warm out, or offer other items. They also, as their businesses, they generally have bags and gloves. So they may be able to provide those donations as well. I've had situations where I've run out of bags midway through a cleanup, and I would just run into a corner store and ask them like, hey, do you guys have any extra bags? We're cleaning up the neighborhood and just ran out, and they're happy to provide those items. Another example of how you can partner with businesses is what I did with these cleanup kits. Each kit contains 2 bags, 2 pairs of gloves, and it's wrapped in a piece of paper that has a little basic guide with your safety instructions and what you should do when the bags are full, how you can let us know what area you cleaned, how much you collected. And it's a great way also for visibility. I've had a lot of people who've seen these when they go pick up their morning coffee and pastry, and they snap a picture and then reach out later to see what it's about. Or they don't have time to come to group cleanups, and this is an opportunity for them to have the tools they need to kind of go out and do it on their own time. And it's just a great way to really spread your reach and let the community know that you're there.
Thank you, Katie. Okay, now we're gonna talk a little bit about a new MicroGrant program that Sanitation Foundation is doing. We're offering 2 new microgrants to help provide community groups with supplies, and these grant opportunities will be available throughout the next year. So the first one is the Tool Starter Kit Microgrant, and this is for both new and established cleanup groups. Groups can receive 1 grant per 12-month award period, and these grants are available on a rolling basis. And you basically just need to commit to hosting 3 events in the first year, 3 cleanup events, complete the DSNY volunteer cleanup application that Marissa had mentioned earlier, and also submit a post-event survey within 2 weeks after each event. The starter kits include the items over here on the bottom right: 5 litter pickers, 10 pairs of reusable gloves, 1 broom dustpan, 25 bags, 1 scale, 1 tote, 1 first aid kit, and 1 hand sanitizer. And then our second microgrant is for just established groups. So groups who have either hosted at least 5 events in the past year, or were awarded a Tool Starter Kit microgrant and have already completed all grant requirements. These groups can also, for this grant, you can also receive 1 grant per 12-month award period, and basically the same reporting requirements, except for you would commit to hosting 6 events in the first year instead of 3. And for this grant, it includes your choice of tools and supplies totaling $300. And the first microgrant is already actually up on our website, and we're in the process of awarding them, or the ones that we've gotten applications for. This one is going to get put up very shortly. We'll be sending up all of information to everyone who attended the webinar tonight. And these are some upcoming things for going on with the Sanitation Foundation. We'll be putting together another webinar this time focused on discovering and applying for various grant opportunities. And these will include opportunities that are open to community groups, even if they're not official nonprofit organizations, and then also information about fiscal sponsorship and how that process works. We are also putting together a directory of community-based cleanup groups. So if you'd like your group listed, please fill out the form and we'll send that link out as well. And it'll also be up on our website shortly. Okay, and then I believe this is Marissa.
Hey, me again. Just a couple of additional resources from the Department of Sanitation. So one is on our website, how to get rid of blank. So a lot of people ask us, how do they get rid of paint? How do they get rid of a fridge? Definitely you can go on our website and it'll actually tell you exactly step by step on what you need to do. So it's definitely a great resource. Finally, a complaint on 311, always really helpful. It definitely does come to us. If you do submit a 311, I can actually look it up on my end and get some updates from the district and see exactly where it's at. So if you do submit one and you want some clarification or you want an update, definitely either call or email my office. We'll be able to get that for you. Donate NYC is an amazing resource. There are so many things. We don't want it to go to waste, but you just don't need it anymore. Clothes, other household items, books. If it's still in good shape, definitely go to Donate NYC for the website and see all the great organizations that are in your neighborhood or in your borough where you can drop something off. I think a couple of people may even come pick it up if you have like a TV or some sort of furniture. So definitely look into that. Food scrap drop-offs, obviously the best because we love compost and we want to make sure none of it goes to the landfill. So you just already our smart compost bins. If you go on our website, you can actually see a list of all the food scrap drop-off sites that are from local organizations and our partners, where you can drop it off at certain times of the day. It might be even more convenient than the smart bin. And a few of them are actually, staffed by somebody. So you can talk to them about what specific material that you're dropping off. Do keep in mind that some of those food scrap drop-off sites, they don't accept every single type of material that you'll be dropping off for your compost. So do keep that in mind. Our SWABs, our solid waste advisory boards are great. We work with all of them in Brooklyn, Bronx, Manhattan, Queens, and give them as much information as possible. They're a great kind of bevy of resources as well. Our Adopt a Basket program is really great. If you know any businesses that would be interested in this, we give them a bag of liners, basically garbage bags. And if they see that a basket is overflowing, especially if they're the business right in front of it, they can see it. They can just swap out the bag that up, and then put a new liner in. so that way it's not always overflowing. And then as long as they keep that bag right next to it, then we'll pick it up when we service the basket. So it's a great way to keep the corners just a little bit neater and tidier, as just we have more and more people in New York City. So always a great way to help out. Thank you.
Thank you, Marissa. Okay. So now we're going to move on to our panel discussion with cleanup organizers, and also if you have any questions for them or Marissa from Community Affairs, please send them along and we will try to get to as many of them as we can. But first we'll have them answer some of the questions we've prepared. So for all the organizers, what have been the best ways that you've grown and maintained your volunteer base? What do you think has worked well for you?
Okay, do you want to go? Oh, I'll go.
You can go, Jihadi.
Okay, yeah, I was just gonna say, just keep. I mean, for me personally, I keep a list of every time we do a cleanup. You know, you have a sign-up sheet of everyone that attended, and you keep an email contact for everyone. So for your next cleanup, you know, you can reach out to folks, and that's basically how I keep contact of everyone that has joined the cleanup. Pretty simple.
Great, thank you. And Katie?
So I do a similar thing. I have a mailing list that people can join, but I also find it really helpful for growing the base is, you know, reaching out to different organizations to help cross promote and get more people there. Definitely when you have families with kids, a lot of times they know other families in the neighborhood from school, so they'll bring them along as well. And just keeping everyone engaged and keeping it fun is a great way to just maintain that group of volunteers that you've put together.
Thank you, Katie.
I actually agree with something that Katie said earlier during her presentation about connecting with the volunteers. I found that the moment I started focusing more on actually connecting with the people that were coming to the events versus being so focused on running the event, that is actually when I was able to engage and really meet with them and kind of start conversations and get to know them. And a lot of them, actually not a lot of them, but some of the volunteers actually became friends. And through that friendship is that now I'm able to count on their support, even though sometimes through social media or through newsletters, we might not get too much engagement. But I know that my initial core volunteers that are now friends, I can count on them. And that happened because of that stepping out and actually trying to connect with the people that are there to help out. Yeah.
Thank you, Angela. And Nicole, what about you? Have you found any?
So, you know, I think that you have to expect that you're going to see different people every time. That's just sort of part of it. You'll have a core group, like Angela was saying, and you know, that's great. And then I like, at least I find with Clean Bushwick Initiative, we have a lot of other people that come and go, and that's fine too. I try to do a lot of social media posting for educational purposes. I try to also change up the events a little. Sometimes we'll partner with the Parks Department or DEP and do rain garden events or a local business and offer something after, back to what Katie was saying earlier, as a way to engage volunteers in a bigger way, to have conversations and, you know, educational moments. And emails, making it fun, everything that everyone else said. I try to bring a speaker, I play music, try to make it, you know, just a really community, good community feeling. And that seems to help.
Thank you, Nicole. And this is kind of along the lines of volunteer interaction. What are the most common questions you kind of volunteers ask you during your events?
A lot of times volunteers will, especially the kids, will ask, why do people throw their trash on the ground? It's a very simple question that does not really have a simple answer. So it's interesting to try and find the ways to explain that to them. a lot of the other common questions are things that Marissa already went over about how much waste sanitation collects. Do they pick up everything? And I think it's interesting to explain how, you know, a lot of different agencies have their own sanitation department, like Parks Department. They pick up all the trash at parks. The MTA has their own sanitation department that collects all the trash from subway stations and bus stations and stuff like that. So it's those little like interesting fun facts that usually kind of come out from questions that are nice to be able to have.
Thank you, Katie. Love that. Okay.
Yeah, I would say one of the most common questions is just which Ms. Marissa went over as well. When you want to plan your own cleanup, pretty much is what we're going over now, how to go about that, who to reach out to, and where to get your tools, where do you get your tools from? And also another common question is usually, how do I report such and such business? You know, this certain business right here is, you know, or this building, there's always a lot of trash there. How do I go about reporting them, or what do I do about that? And I know Marissa went over some of that, reaching out to 311 and whatnot. So yeah, those are some of the common questions that I get. Angela.
Yeah, to your point, I usually clean that around my neighborhood, and I do get a lot of the questions from other neighbors that are complaining about businesses. So eventually I kind of have to become a subject matter expert based on my own experience, how to use the app, like how to reach out, even what Katie said about like the distinction between who cleans what in the city. All of that information eventually I had to learn. And so when I was doing cleanups, people will ask and I can become a resource to them. Of course, that is not something that happens overnight, but it's definitely, people are curious. And the more you are out there in the neighborhood, the more, you know, they like to tell you why, you know, that things are not working. So it's good that you're prepared with phone numbers or links, or just be able to share your experience so people can learn from what you know.
Yeah, absolutely. To what Angela said, I think you become an expert in a lot of different areas regarding sanitation and just the way the city works. And people do have a lot of questions about why things are the way they are. Why aren't baskets picked up more? Why is this that way? You know, anything you can think of. And I think there's, you know, when people first start out, I think there's an oversimplification of these things. You know, as Katie said, you know, the questions might be simple, but the answers are more complicated. So, and I think that really varies also by different neighborhoods. Different neighborhoods have different issues for different reasons. And so I think some of the questions might be a little bit different depending on where you're doing your cleanups. But I think it is good to know a little bit about the way sanitation functions and some of the resources you can provide to people, like 311, like a lot of the things Marissa highlighted when we started. So I think it's good to have a basic knowledge of those resources, because those things will come up for sure.
And here I actually want to plug the Zero Waste Academy, because that was my first introduction to just like how garbage and garbage collection works in the city. And it was like super eye-opening. And it's such nice, well put together program that I highly recommend it to anyone interested in just learning how garbage flows and is processed in the city. So that in itself just gave me a lot of information.
Thank you, guys. And how do you all decide when and how often to host cleanups?
For me, it's just kind of based on my availability and when I have time. I think it's hard if you're, you know, the main force behind the organization. So like how Angela had said, once you get like a core group of volunteers, really cultivating that and having people to lean on, that really helps in knowing that you have enough support to do the event and you don't have to, you know, be on your own. But for the most part, you know, twice a month usually works out pretty well. And, again, it's volunteer work. You don't have to feel like you have to do it consistently. Don't let yourself get burnt out. It's, whenever works for the group.
Is that basically the same for the rest of you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad that Katie brought up the thing about not feeling guilty about like continuously organizing or feeling uber responsible for an area, because that's how it started for me. Like when I started, I was like, I'm gonna clean all of Queens, and then suddenly you're like, you have work, you have school, you have family, and then you can't really tackle everything. So something that helped me was just to like really decide that my focus was gonna be hyper local. So like I'm only focusing on Hollis, which is the neighborhood that I lived in. And once I made that decision, things just became easier because I no longer had to like constantly be learning about neighborhoods and making those connections. I was just building further and further and deepening the relationships that are already around me. And it's true, like it is volunteer work. We do it because we love it. We love our neighborhood. We believe in our neighborhood and we want to continue. But people have responsibilities. So I feel like as long I communicated that I was doing my master's now to my core group of friends and volunteers, and they totally understand it. And they're like, you have your things, and when you're ready to come back, you'll come back. But even through all of that, I still feel that, when it you're always trying to just create the events that you can with the energy and the time that you have. And I think accepting that if it's one event for 1 year, then that's fine, versus like doing 20 events, which is what we did last year. So it's just a lot of like introspection and deciding and talking things out with yourself and see what's just gonna work for you and your schedule.
Great. And Jahari, Nicole,
Do you-
do you guys have?
Do you want me to jump in, Jahadi? So similar to what both Angela and Katie said, and I really agree with what you both said. That was really well put. I base it somewhat on people's reaching out to me, people in the neighborhood. I base it on businesses reaching out and wanting to partner, council members, community board, different events that pop up that people will approach and say, hey, do you want to partner on this? That's one way. Definitely a lot of times with the local businesses and the residents. So I try to create the events around what's going on in the neighborhood. Obviously for Earth Month, I try to plan events, that are related to, larger topics around waste and waste reduction, and really use that as an opportunity for education. But I agree with what everyone said. You do what you can. I think one of the greatest things about these groups is that you can make a difference in your hyper local area. I think sometimes we can feel like we don't have any power for change, and doing this has really made me realize that I can make a change within my community, and that has much broader positive impacts. So I think that's one of the really most special parts of both the local cleanup groups and the Sanitation Foundation events as well.
I'm sorry, I missed it. Can you repeat the question? I'm sorry, I know I missed one.
Yes, no problem. Just kind of how do you decide when and how often to host your events?
Okay, well, my events are usually hosted in the summer, being that I usually host youth. So it's usually springtime and summer when they're out of school or towards the end of school. And how often? I mean, I guess you gauge it by, like last summer we did one pretty much like once a month. So, I kind of try to gauge it by, the interest. You put a feeler out there and see how many people are interested. And then, a lot of times I may put, an idea out for this weekend, so to speak. And, depending on how many people respond, we'll figure out a date, that works for everybody. So I think Katie was saying, not to do too much or go overboard as much as you can and stay within your means. So I try to do that. So over a summertime, I would say I do about 3 to 6 cleanups, major cleanups, as far as multiple blocks and whatnot.
Thank you, guys. And I know Katie already talked a little bit about how she interacts with local businesses with their kids, but could you guys share any experiences you have in engaging with local businesses or other community groups?
Yeah, the local businesses are definitely a great resource. Some of the cleanups that I do, we collaborate with the local businesses as far as providing food. Sometimes I have them cook, and we'll have a corner, kind of like a, at the end of the cleanup, a meetup spot. So maybe we'll meet up at a local restaurant or something like that, and they'll provide food for everybody. Maybe they'll have some music there. So I've done things like that. And it's a give and take, like we all said, the cleanup is one of the main things, is that it's a community building effort. So, getting businesses involved that can supply resources. I think Katie mentioned before, like I've had people come out of their stores and stuff and offer water, fruit to all the volunteers, because it's a community building thing and they see what you're doing. So yeah, we definitely use the resources of the local businesses to help spread the word and to help reinforce, what you're doing.
I actually spend more time connecting with other local community organizations. Actually, I got started because another community organization, shout out to Southeast Queens, DJ Net, I think she's here. She's the person that helped me get started. And also she helped me realize the importance of actually connecting with everyone else that's doing similar work than you, because you learn from them and you tap into those networks and they share your flyer. And so a lot of my time is put into building those relationships more. And then I have managed to get some grants through other stuff. And when I do get grants, I try to support the local businesses and buy food for the volunteers that way. But that's just, I think what Katie said about reaching out and like leaving the kids in the businesses, that's such a great idea. It's just something that I haven't explored, but I would like to eventually with more time.
Can you tell me what the question was? Because I didn't hear the very beginning.
Sure. Just kind of, do you have any experiences you can share with engaging local businesses or community groups?
Yeah. So that's definitely a really important part of this. I think, this is community work. And so therefore, you should get as many members of the community involved as possible, especially when you are cleaning out in front of a business. It's beneficial to them. And I think by and large, people are just incredibly grateful. That's my experience. So much gratitude, both by residents and business owners and, members of the, local political landscape. So I think it's great to tap into the community board, local council members, and local businesses, and absolutely other community organizations that are doing various types of work, because a lot of the issues around sanitation actually lead into other areas in the community. So there's a lot of intersection in a lot of these issues. And yeah, that's what I'd say about
Cool. Thank you. We have some questions from the audience, so let me get a few of those answered. How large or small of an area are typically part of your cleanups or a cleanup?
I think that really depends. If you have an area where there's a lot of litter, like consistently, you might not be able to cover as much space. If you're looking at an area that is more spread out litter, you may be able to go a lot further. So I think it's just starting small, maybe try to plan it along a commercial corridor. Areas that have high foot traffic usually have the most litter. It's sometimes harder in very residential areas to find high volume, but your neighborhood best. So plan for your event typically to not be more than 2 hours. Again, these are volunteers. You don't want people to feel like they need to be out all day.
Great, thank you, Katie.
Love to
And
jump in there if it's okay. Can I jump in?
yeah,
Yeah, I think starting shorter is better, and it also depends on how many volunteers you have. Obviously, if you have a lot of volunteers, you can cover bigger areas. So I think it's good. And you sometimes don't know how many volunteers you're going to get. I mean, I think many of us maybe do registration, and that helps to get a sense of what you need in terms of supplies, as well as the area you can cover, but it's a little unpredictable. So you could start with a smaller area, and then if you have more people show up than you expected, I think you can, have a second plan to go further, keeping in mind, bags get heavy, and what Katie said, like, you want to be respectful of your volunteers. I think 2 hours max is pretty ideal.
Yeah, I definitely agree with the 2 hour limit. And I think that you should do as much as you feel like you could do. Don't overextend yourself. So I feel like if you can, like, I started on my block personally with the youth and the young men on my block. We started on one side of the street. And actually it wasn't even the whole street. It was just maybe like 5 homes or something like that in front of a building or something. So, I mean, I say that to say you can start as small as you like. If you have 2 volunteers, if it's you and 2 partners and you want to start, go ahead and start, and just don't overextend yourself, and just, take it easy and try to stay under that 2 hour limit. Because it can definitely get strenuous, especially when you're talking about in the summer times.
thank you guys.
Mhm.
Angela, did you have something to say?
No, just agree with
Okay,
everything everyone
great.
just said. The 2 hours is the sweet spot. Anything more than that, I feel like people start getting tired for sure.
Thank you. And another question that we got is, how do you clean and store your supplies?
So I'll let someone else take the first crack at this question. I think we all have different methods to this.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it depends on the space. Yeah, I keep some of my supplies in the sewer room in my house, but I'm lucky to have a house in Queens, so I can store a lot of things. But the caveat here is that when we didn't have a car, I could not bring as much supplies as I could after we got a car. So it really just depends of your space and how much you're willing to carry and your meeting spot and all of that. As for cleaning, the only thing that I clean consistently is the gloves, because I try to buy reusable gloves and those I wash and try to, get a few uses out of it. Just thinking about not creating more waste by cleaning waste. So I try to make decisions around buying supplies that are going to last a while, or I can reuse multiple times.
Yeah, same for me. I keep everything in my apartment. Reusable gloves, I wash them after every use. As they wear out, I might get rid of some and replace some, but I don't have like a storage facility, so I do what I can and buy things as needed. Like buy the bags before the events, so I don't have extras of those lying around.
So
Yeah.
You can go ahead, Daddy.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna agree and say same here. I have a yard, so I keep any tools and stuff in my shed in the yard. And I mean, I when I do larger cleanups, I go and get the tools and stuff from the local DSNY. So, obviously we return the tools then, so it's pretty simple.
So similar to Angela, I'm fortunate that my building management company will allow me to keep stuff in the basement, which has been great. Previously, my trash cart and its contents lived inside my apartment. So I would use Lysol wipes and clean every grabber, clean the wheels of the cart, everything. Because I have 2 cats and I don't know what kind of germs I'm rolling around in the city. So then when I was able to start putting stuff in the basement, I didn't have to worry about, cleaning every little bit. I do, every so often, rinse everything just to get the grime off, or if I know a grabber's been used on, some gross stuff, and make sure to ask the volunteers to clean their tools before they return them. But unfortunately, as a renter, and having to possibly move, I now have to figure out where all my tools are going to live. So, it's definitely something to think about. But the great part is that between the Sanitation Foundation and DSNY, there are a lot of options. So if you have the storage space, go for one of the microgrants. If you don't have the storage space, then borrow the tools from DSNY. There's all the options available to you, so that you can, whatever works for your specific situation. And I noticed someone has another Q&A that I just want to jump on about, are the trash bags left at the spot of the cleanup and picked up by DSNY? Does that need to be scheduled? So that is, Marissa mentioned earlier about the DSNY tool loan application. Even if you aren't using any tools from DSNY, say you have your own stuff or you got a micro grant from the foundation, you can still fill out that form to let sanitation know, hey, we're having an event on this date at this time. This is the area where we're cleaning up, and you can designate where you're going to put the bags for collection. So all of that can be worked out directly with DSNY, and the link to that request form will be available on the website.
And I think Caroline put it in the chat as well, so you guys can save it from there. Okay. And Kennedy had another question. How do you navigate cleanups in hard to reach places, i.e. lots with many shrubs, twigs, areas containing biohazardous waste, or on private property?
That might be a great question for Marissa to answer.
Sure, not a problem. So definitely we do have a lot of cleanups that happen near highways or in a couple of out of reach areas. I do not condone going on private property unless, nope, I don't condone you going on private property. Do not go on anybody else's property. And technically through our cleanup, through our tool loan program, it's not for you to clean up your own property. If you just want to clean up your own backyard, you cannot use DSNY supplies for that. And we already give you free pickup 2 to 3 times a week. So cannot do it at your own location. For biohazardous waste, normally this would be syringes or any other sort of sharps like that. Don't touch them. You can go through 311 and let us know that they're there, and we will come pick that up later. So you won't be able to pick it up at that moment, but we could pick it up later. There is a way to technically get rid of sharps, like through your household, like through residential, which is to put it in a puncture-proof container and label it sharps. But if we're talking about syringes on the street, I would rather nobody pick those up except a team that is actually skilled and they are trained and they have the correct shots for them to pick up any sort of biohazardous waste. So I don't recommend that at all. So no biohazardous waste and no private property. For shrubs and twigs, a lot of the big shrubby areas are where we have a lot of illegal dumping. So if you're on the side of a highway and you're trying to get some stuff, that's maybe you don't have to go there. But if you are thinking of any areas, please reach out to my office and we'll see if we can help narrow you down a bit.
Thank you, Marissa. And I think this other question is kind of relevant for you too. Folks in my neighborhood often ask about outreach, whether there are materials about proper set out, etc. that could be shared with neighbors and businesses? Do you have recommendations on that?
So for like proper set out and things like that, you can go on the DSNY website and for free, you can download a PDF of all of our flyers. Actually, so you can just go on there and grab the ones that you need, even one specifically for residents. If you're just talking about outreach for your cleanup, that I cannot assist you with. But for other DSNY rules, regulations, and programming, you can go on the website for that. Yeah, do our materials. It's the materials pickup download. I can find the link for it and I'll put it in the chat, but yes.
Thank you. And
I will also say that one of the things that we sort of alluded to in the more to come as we put together more materials is that we will be creating some outreach comms resources to help folks get the word out for their own events.
And then another question for you guys. Based on your own experience, is there any advice you would give to someone who's just getting started with organizing cleanup events? You've already kind of given a lot of advice, but is there anything that kind of biggest one maybe?
I would say, just start small. You don't have to like jump into organizing something super big. It's a lot of like trial and error. When I first started, I was on my own, and then I had maybe like 3 or 4 people coming with me. And now it's a lot bigger. Sometimes I miss the small cleanups. So I would say just start small and see where it takes you.
Yeah, I would second that, and I would just add, make it fun, whatever you can do to, initiate some sort of creativity or, a joyful aspect to, your cleanup day or cleanup, your cleanup hours. Some music always helps, like Nicole was mentioning earlier. So yeah, I mean, definitely start small, don't overwhelm yourself, and then try to just make it as much of a joyful experience, because it's easy to get overwhelmed because all you see is trash, and you clean the street today, and a day later it's going to be more trash. So it can kind of feel as like a futile activity sometimes. So you don't want to take on the pressures of the world and think that you're going to clean up. This cleanup is going to solve all the issues. You kind of have to just try to do your part and make it as enjoyable as you can.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything you guys said. I think starting small for me was the biggest realization. Just not put so much weight on what you're trying to accomplish and actually feel comfortable with failure, really. And kind of like realizing that you are the person that's initiating this. And if you want to continue to do it, you should do it. And if other people want to join you, that's fine. But if they're not, then that's also okay. You are the person that's driving this force. But also realizing that sometimes you don't have the energy, and it's okay just like to take a break and, scale it back a little bit and reassess and start over again. I personally started Abuela neighborhood maintenance 3 times. Twice I quit, and then the 3rd time I actually stuck. And here we are now. So I think it's okay to start and reassess and start again, and until you actually find something that is sustainable for you and your lifestyle and just who you are as a person. Yeah.
Thank you. We have a question from Kennedy. Does one need to be registered as a nonprofit or with a grant receiving association to receive the MicroGrants from Sanitation Foundation? No, you do not be registered as a nonprofit or with a grant receiving association.
We want to make this process as easy as possible to get tools into the community for you to do this work. So, I think that we can do sort of a brief overview of the basic requirements, but it's basically committing to submitting the form to Marissa so we can make sure we plan collection for whatever you collect, and then doing a post survey at the end of your event so that, you know, we have an understanding of, you know, what work you're doing so that we can help celebrate it and get the word out about, you know, your programming. So the grant program is supposed to be as easy as possible to get you what you need to make a difference locally.
Thank you. And we have one last question for our organizers. So hold on. There's another Q&A quick I can answer. I love all your logos. Any advice on making a logo?
That's tough. Well, actually, logos are, you know, they could be easy. It could just be, you know, finding a font and color that works for you. T-shirt designs, that's where you outsource it to the real artists and run a contest, and then have someone kind of figure it out for you. That definitely helps.
We didn't, this slide does not have everyone's social handles, but we will recirculate them in the email that we send out after the event. I cannot recommend enough to follow all of these incredible community leaders on their social media and see what they're up to. There's you can catch up on Katie's t-shirt contest, design contest that they just did, and see the incredible work that this team is doing.
Yeah, I would say it's always good to, you know, if you have a graphic designer nearby to get to give you some assistance with logo creation. I mean, but there are also tools. I mean, if you want to make something basic, you know, a lot of people are using Canva, and Canva has a lot of you know, options, basic options for creating a logo. Or even if you want to hire somebody, Fiverr, I think that's what it's called, Fiverr. I think that's the app. You can find, you know, a lot of great resources for graphic designers. You pay somebody $20, you know, and they'll be able to whip up a logo for you. So if you want to outsource it, that may be the way to go.
You can also think as a community building activity. Maybe you don't have a logo yet, but you are managed to get a group of people and you can kind of like design the logo together. Also, some advice, just to backtrack a little bit, advice for people that are just starting out, like don't get boggled with technology. I think it's very easy to create your Eventbrite and your Canva and your Instagram, and then suddenly you have like 10 other things that you have to worry about. I think it's okay just to like reach out to like your family, your neighbors, and just start there, very analog, very basic, and even like a really nice like hand-drawn marker with, I don't know, Crayola or something. Even that's something like that can be beautiful. So it's just getting the message across was important. And you can start just like printing and making flyers. You don't even have to go on social media, especially if you want to focus on like your neighborhood at a super micro level.
Thank you all. And one last question for you all, unless anybody else has any more questions. But what do you enjoy the most from hosting cleanups, and what keeps you going and what keeps you doing them?
What I enjoy the most, and I anticipate it'll probably be the same for a lot of the other organizers, is just meeting people in the community. Prior to starting this, I didn't know a ton of people in my neighborhood. I mean, I knew some, but most of my friends lived either outside of the city or in different boroughs. So when everything shut down, my friends were not in Manhattan anymore. So meeting neighbors and kind of starting to build a group of people, and now it's kind of funny. Sometimes I'm like, oh man, I wish I could just walk down the street and not run into people that I know. But I've become such a fixture in my neighborhood that, you know, even on our last cleanup with council member Eric Botcher, I ran into 5 people that I knew. Either people who volunteered with me or neighbors from my apartment building. So it's been really nice to, you know more people that, you know, then you're building community through these events. And I think that's kind of the best takeaway from it all.
Yes, I would certainly agree with Katie. Katie, you're officially a celebrity now. We saw you with the mayor. You know, you made it, Katie. You're out there.
Thank
Um,
you.
I definitely agree. The community building aspect, like I said, my cleanups, majority of the attendees are youth, are younger people. So it's a community building, but it's also the educational aspect for me, where young people get to understand the impact that the trash and whatnot in their community has on them. And a lot of times for young people, especially young people of color, um, you know, cleanups and community cleanups are attached to community service, and it's a bad stigmatization that goes with cleaning up, right? So a lot of times, I've been in cleanups even where people think that we're doing community service, and you have to just clarify that yes, we are doing community service, but not sanctioned by the government. This is volunteer work that we actually care about the community, and it's not something that anyone is being punished to do. So that concept is very important for me to get across to young people, that taking care of your community is not a punishment, and that it's something that you should take pride in. So yeah, the educational aspect, the community building aspect, the intergenerational aspect, where I get young people to kind of communicate with the elders in the community, it's a great thing. It's a great thing. So that's the greatest part for me.
Yeah, for me, the same. I mean, I've been living in the neighborhood since 2016, and it took me 4 years until 2020 to actually start and really focus on Abuela neighborhood maintenance. And once I started that project is when I really felt rooted and connected to my neighborhood and my house and just everything that was around me. And it's such a nice feeling to realize that you do have a place that you belong to. You just have to spend more time in it to appreciate it, and also to recognize what can be improved on and what is your role in that environment. This is actually something that Nicole mentioned, but recognizing that you have power as a citizen, you can make a difference. That's probably one of the biggest mind shifts for me, because I was afraid to get started. I was like, people are gonna yell at me for like cleaning the sidewalk. This is New York, and then completely flipping that over and now willingly going out and talking to people and just telling them, like, you have the power. I started it. I started by myself. I was scared, but I did it, and look at all the things that I have done. And so telling people that you have the power as a citizen, you should be complaining to 311, you should be complaining to your elected officials, because if you don't do it, no one else will. And it's just realizing that you do have a voice. And it's great I'm glad that I was able to recognize that within myself, and hopefully be able to provide that and show that as an example for other people, that we do have the power to make a difference. So don't tell anyone tell you otherwise.
Thank you guys so much. That was great. If we don't have any other questions, if you guys have anything else you want to share, can move on and let Caroline wrap up.
Well, I just want to thank all of you for joining this evening. And I also want to give a huge shout out to everyone who helped make tonight possible. This presentation would not, be here. Katie did an incredible job pulling all of the slides together. And thank you to our incredible community organizers / team members who make so much of what we do possible. Katie, Jihadi, Angela, Nicole, who is no longer on the call, but it was thrilling to hear you guys talk about all this work. And we're grateful to all of you. And Marissa, thank you as well for joining us. We hope to continue to support the incredible cleanups that you guys are doing, and also all of the attendees that you guys are going to build. So like when we send out the follow-up, there'll be a way to stay in touch, and also to add your programs to the directory that we're building so that we can create community together and support the work that's happening across the city. And I
Thanks,
guess,
Caroline.
yes, and more about cleanups that we have a ton of cleanups coming up too. And an opportunity for all of you to join us. We'd love to have you volunteer with us, and see our events in action, and also just, you know, partner with us if these are being held in an area near you. Let us know and we'll tag team. We love to do these in partnership with the local group. So just hit us up at volunteer@sanitationfoundation.org, and we'll talk cleanup action. Thank you all for joining us this evening. It's been a pleasure, and this is where you can get everyone's social media handle. So definitely follow this incredible team. I regularly enjoy the updates that I'm seeing of the incredible programs that are being built. And we will hopefully see you guys. There's going to be another one of these webinars coming up in a couple of months, and we look forward to seeing you there too.